I'm Sasha Nicole.
And I'm Star.
And I'm Dr. T.
And this is Amerikan Therapy, the definitive podcast on all things Black mental health. And we are continuously back, y'all, on our virtual tip during this Rona. We are trying to still give you the content that, we have committed to delivering all the time. And so we hope that you continue like this virtual that we're doing. Make sure that you follow us, Amerikan Therapy with a K, YouTube, Instagram, check our website out. And don't worry, once this all cools off, we will be back on the road doing the HBCU mental health tour. We're excited. And we're just, continuing to try to gain that traction. And we hope all of you are out there doing all right. And so, Star, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so today we have a big guest. I think I say that every week, but this time we really do have a really big guest. So today we're talking about train your brain, okay? So how can you make all this work, allow this brain space work to your advantage and change some of the behaviors and patterns that are not beneficial at this point? So that's it.
So our guest is none other than David McCullar. David McCullar is the founder and driving force behind expanding the footprint of Inception, the first mental health gym, its model and philosophy. David has a background in network engineering technology and 13 years of active experience in the alternative health and wellness business world. In 2007, David was certified in brainware optimization and Dr. David Bercelis trauma release exercise, TRE. David has mentored and coached over 100 brain state licenses in business development and client care. And in 2017, David won the TIE 20 award for having one of the top 20 innovative companies in Michigan. David went from servicing over 1,000 clients with a single brain training modality to creating Inception in Farmington Hills, the world's first mental health gym. So we are extremely excited to have David. This is really the first of its kind, and I can't wait because I know I need some new brain patterns for sure.
Girl, I don't go to the gym now. Now I'm like, oh, now I gotta go to brain gym too. I'm excited though. I'm ready. So what is the brain gym? What is it that, like, we, Black people, we don't know what this is. You got to tell us what it is.
Well, it's a mental health gym, and what that really means is it's everyone, like you just said, everybody goes to the traditional gym. Well, you said you don't go to the gym, but most people go to the traditional gym or have heard of the traditional gym. And so we just wanted to bring to the forefront the normalization of taking care of your internal state of being, not just your external state of being. But we do that by using 21st century technology, same way you would use, the weights, and those are called technologies, inside the gym. We have technology inside our gym that works from a bidirectional approach from brain and body. So your mental health is like your driving force behind your entire existence. So you should really pay attention to that and put the work into it to maximize this whole being that you have. And I believe that at Inception, it gives you the tools to be able to do that.
So, like, what are some of the things that Inception does? Like, when you talk about maximizing or basically putting your brain to work, like working that out, when we say gym, like, how does Inception, like, what are some of the things that it does? Or, like, tell us, like, if there's a person who's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, what type of client are you serving? Or, like, what are some of the things that it does to help people? Or if what type of issues should you have an issue in order to go to Inception? Or it's just like anybody? Like, I mean, how does that work?
Well, first off, if you're living in a country, you have issues. So I don't care who you are.
True.
We all have it. And specifically now at this state and climax in the country, we all have issues. We have some major issues. And now that this crisis is taking place, we're seeing that those issues that we may thought that we didn't have is coming to the forefront, right? So for us, it's just from everyday average person to the person who's at their wit's end and they've tried everything. Because the thing that you're really dealing with, and the thing that we're really doing, is working with your brain to come out of the stress response. So most people, when they hear stress, they always think of something out there. Like it was this event that took place. But really what it is the response to the stress. And if you have chronic stress or if you've had trauma, your brain can become stuck in that pattern of protection. And the reason why that's important is because if you're stuck in a pattern of protection, even though the event is past, say a saber-toothed tiger, that was our old threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your brain and body is going to go into to activate to run away, or either fight that tiger or run away or freeze, right? So let's say that you got away from the predator. All of a sudden you find yourself still stuck. The brain is still activating and keeping you in defense mode as if that event is still happening. See, non-domesticated animals don't have post-traumatic stress. That's because one thing they know how to do is to go and discharge. They'll shake uncontrollably. They're shaking all the energy that they use out of their bodies. And so that's one of the methods in my bio that we talked about is trauma release exercises. So whatever energy you use during a traumatic event, if you don't discharge that or dissipate that energy out of your body, it's still locked in your body. That's why I say all the time, the issues are in the tissues of your body.
Ooh.
So
say that again. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The issues are in the tissues of your body. So we use, and you come to Inception, we use modalities that's going to bring you out of that stress response, get your muscles to begin to relax, get you to slow down. And when it happens, people find it amazing that now they can focus and concentrate, their mood is uplifted, their memories increase, there's less reactivity to stress. So what did we do? Did we come in and give you some neurochemical that you didn't have? No. Your brain in the body is a pharmacy, as Deepak Chopra says. Your brain and your body can make all the chemicals that it needs. But your brain and body is making all these chemicals, is using all these resources for adrenaline and cortisol. It's not using its resources to add and subtract math problems. So when you go look at the school system, all the kids who are labeled with ADD and ADHD, that's all trauma-related symptoms. Your brain and body is stuck trying to protect you from some threatening environment. So again, for us, it's not that we're working your brain out. Actually, we're relaxing you to a 10th degree. We're relaxing you. It's not like couch meditation. This is some relaxation when you feel like you're drugged. That's all because your brain decided, okay, let's take our foot off the gas.
So I want to back up for a second when you said and go back into some of the things that you do is when you said that like with children, and it even made me think when you said like ADHD, things like that are trauma related. But what about when you have children who at 2 years old who haven't experienced any type of trauma, who are exhibiting characteristics that are described with ADHD? Like, do you categorize all of these things as trauma related?
You have to say, what's your definition of trauma? Because someone say they didn't have a trauma. I had a girl, she was 7 years old. She came to us. This was probably 5-6 years ago, if not longer. The parents brought her in. She was picking at her skin, till she would bleed. She would always fight with her sibling. Very adversarial at 7 years old. So when she first came in, I had a technology when I was using to actually do the brain mappings. And I looked at probably over 1,000 brain maps during that time frame. And clearly we can see her brain was stuck in fight or flight. I mean, a huge imbalance. Mm-hmm. And so I asked the parents, I said, well, what happened? They said, oh, nothing happened. White kid from Grand Rapids, nothing happened, no trauma. I'm like, oh, okay. It didn't matter for us. All we care about is trying to get the brain out of that pattern. We're not chasing symptoms anyway. So it's just a conversation at that point. So they come back the next day and then they say, you know what? We remember she was running, she fell, cut her lip. We had to take her to the hospital and the doctors had to have 4 people pin her down to basically give her a shot because they were going to have to sew her lip. So trauma right there. But we don't process that as trauma because we think, oh, well, what's a big deal about that? Well, her nervous system spiked and now she's walking around like the Hulk, But after 3 sessions of working with us, 4 sessions, come back, kid is totally different. So it's really about, again, we had another kid too, umbilical cord wrapped around his neck when he was born. Trauma. That's the freeze response. So we have to look at and change our definitions and understanding of trauma, and not think that it's just something that, somebody was shot or, car accident or something like that. Traumas can be as very micro, to something huge.
Dr. Royce, I feel like you're itching over there because trauma is her thing. Dr. T is for trauma.
No, he's right that, trauma is really anything that happens is outside of your comfort zone or your normal experience. So that could be any number of things. It doesn't have to be the kind of, I guess, classical traumas that you think about. I guess I'm just not really still sure exactly what happens. First of all, how would I feel like, oh, this is a good place for me to go? And I'm not really sure like what happens when I go there. Like, is it, you said it's like meditation, it's not like meditation, it's technology, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. So I think, maybe help the listeners understand what they're going to get when they come to Inception.
Depends on what you're looking for. What would you be coming for? What would you be coming for?
Oh, Dr. Royce. Come on, Dr. T.
Or anybody, any of you. What would you say you would be coming for?
I can tell you what I'll be coming for.
You like, just give them all 10. One of them lets them pick up on them.
You know what? I would say for me, so I was abused as a child. And I respond at times in my previous years as I've evolved, I would usually respond very violently or very aggressive. And even I still work through those patterns of responding overly, what I would deem as maybe overly aggressive or defensive, or just always getting that like flight or fight type of demeanor or personality at times. Very, I want to choose my language carefully, because when you mentioned the thing about ADHD and trauma related, I started thinking, because I actually take medicine for ADHD. And so a part of me was a little offended, like, is that the case? Or I don't know, so, but I'm really trying to expand in my learning process and how I define things, because I do have a very hard time focusing. And there are even times when I take the ADHD medication, it will double up, because I'm still having a hard time focusing. So there's a variety. So that is just a small variety of things that when Star, had brought this to the table, that I was just floored by the possibilities of what this could possibly do, especially for someone like me.
So you would be a perfect person to come in. So what you're basically saying is you have an overactive nervous system. And so you're stuck in your sympathetic nervous system. If you're stuck in your sympathetic nervous system, again, your brain, your prefrontal cortex is basically shut down by 30%. You don't even have access to, specific capabilities. So let's say that too, you probably have an issue of sleeping, because if your nervous system is ramped up like that, it's hard typically for someone who's in fight or flight to have sleep. Because
don't. So like I take ZQuil, I take a variety of things just to try to go to sleep. And even when I take that, so like last night I actually had allergic reaction to something, took a Benadryl, and that junk didn't even knock me out. And I was angry about it because I wanted to go to sleep.
So think about this. Everybody is going through mass societal trauma right now. We were already going through mass societal trauma. Now it's even more rampant, where, like she said, trauma is anything that's overwhelming to your nervous system. So think about what's happening to all of us right now. Whatever pattern you typically go into for protection is the pattern you're going to go into. So right now, your nervous system was probably already ramped up because, this past trauma you had. But now this just throws gasoline on that, right? So now you're having a hard time going to sleep. So from our standpoint, we're not concerned with symptoms. We're concerned with systems of your body, right? We know how the systems of the body work. I just talked about, your nervous system, your central nervous system, your autonomic nervous system. That's the mechanics that's engaging. And that's the mechanic that we need to get to rebalance itself, right? So all of our technologies, to answer the doctor, we have a blend of technologies that help and assist in doing that. So let's say the first technology we use, that's something that I use to overcome panic attacks, anxiety, and depression. Again, did I go after those specific symptoms? In the beginning, I would say, yeah, because that's how I was conditioned. I got to go after these symptoms. But really, in the end, no, I was just trying to rebalance the systems of my body, because it's the systems that's mechanically going into these, again, states of defense.
So how are you rebalancing? So like, I'm a meditation teacher, so I have an idea, but I'm trying like explicitly, like, are you gonna put electrodes on my head and shock my brain, or?
So we don't use anything invasive in Inception.
Okay.
Nothing is invasive. Everything mimics actually what's already in nature to a degree.
Okay.
Like, so the brain training, let's talk about that. That's another term for neurofeedback. The first one I use is called brainwave optimization. So is this placing sensors on the scalp of the brain? There's read only, so it's nothing. It's no electroshock therapy going into the sensors.
You know, Black people, we were like,
yeah, I know, right? So these sensors are basically capturing the brainwave activity, and so the computer software is what's doing the magic. The computer software is capturing that brainwave activity and sending the information back to you real time through a pair of headphones. So it's these skips, pauses, and interrupts within the musical track that you listen to. And what that is that system now becomes a mirror to your brain, but not a mirror to Star. Because Star is not in control of her brain. Your brain is in control of you. And if you don't think so, let's say if it starts getting warm in your room, do you turn on your sweat glands? Are you regulating your heart rate? We're not in control of any of these things. So if a threat comes into the room, fight or flight is going to kick on without you saying, well, I need to turn this on. No, it's going to automatically do it. That's why people who were ever, abused or raped or whatever, like, your brain and your body did exactly what it processed and believed it can do to save you on your behalf. You didn't necessarily do the choosing, right? So the neurooptimal, the brain training is allowing your brain to become self-aware. So it's a mirror. Well, it's like I said, something that mimics in nature. It's a mirror. In order for you to change something in your life, you have to have an awareness of it, right? The therapist is nothing but a mirror to you, letting you see what's going on. So I need to show your brain what it's doing in real time. When your brain can see what it's doing, it's saying, well, we're in a nice, relaxing chair, but I'm still in fight or flight, even though there's no threat in front of me right now. So your brain can now choose to come out of those patterns. And when that happens, people start crying for the most part, because now they take a breath. Like, think of how you're holding, like the diaphragm and the breathing now is releasing all that in the body, because the nervous system can come out of that stress response. So that's just one of the technologies that work in that manner. But for the most part, we're trying to get your systems to balance out through the use of our technologies, whether that be your central nervous system or even your lymphatic system. We want to get that moving. Your blood, your cardiovascular system. We want flow within all the systems of your body.
How does this feed with like Dr. Royster, if you have a patient, like how do I, and Dave and Dr. Royster, all of us, like how does this balance with, if I go here, you know how we are one track, right? So like, oh, well, I'm smoking weed now, so I don't need to go to therapy. I had that issue a couple of years ago, I'm like, because I feel good when I'm, getting a little splifted. How do I balance this? Because this seems very beneficial and like acute, and then building like lifestyle and structure and support for keeping that acute feeling going or that change going.
You have to be integrated. You have to integrate everything. So, it's not all about one tool. I'm not anti-therapy. I'm not anti-medication. What I am anti is all the choices being therapy or medication. You can't have that. That's just an imbalanced system. And our country has built that system. So I want to look at what's all my possibilities, and that's what I did for myself. My mom is a therapist. I could have went down that road, but I chose to go down a road that gave me, and it wasn't, once I did the neurofeedback, I found out that I need more. This is not the end all be all. So a lot of times what happens is people get fixated on one tool. Like, so when you go through Inception, you may get to the point and say, David, where I'm here in my life. And I would say, you need to go to therapy, or you need to go, to now do something with your nutrition. Or for instance, I had someone who came, they brought them to me, and this kid was clearly in like some type of psychosis. you got to go to work with the psychiatrist.
Go call Dr. T.
I wasn't going through brain training at that point. I'm moving this person because you need an intervention like a hardcore something to really stabilize you. Like this person was that bad off. But for the most part, a lot of people, like once you can get them, their nervous system to calm down and they can start to get a restful night's sleep and their systems can disengage, they're going to have a better time in any type of therapy or psychiatric session, right? Because the gate is down, right? I have to consciously participate with that group in order for you to be able to help me, right? Brain training, you just got to sit there. You can be as adversarial as you want. Like I've seen that before. Somebody comes in, our adversarial to leave out. Oh, thank you. Like, yeah, because now we relax the system, because the system is all this. It's really all about lack of safety at the end of the day.
And I mean, I agree with David. I think that, I tell people all the time, medication is a tool, therapy is a tool. Your brain and your body can do the work. You just need tools. I often refer to them in a medical analogy as crutches, because people are very familiar with a crutch, right? When you break a leg or you hurt your foot, you use a crutch to temporarily help you heal. Your body is doing the healing, regardless of whether you use that crutch or not. It might heal better. It might heal, in a more aligned way if you do certain things, but your body is going to heal and repair itself. And so it sounds like, what David has assembled is the whole toolbox, which is kind of cool, because many people, as he said, in the alternative health space and the traditional Western health space will specialize in one tool. And then they will, offer that tool to any and everybody, whether it's the right tool or not. And so what happens is that people end up doing a lot of research and going here for meditation and going here for acupuncture and going here for neurofeedback and going here for a therapist. And so if there is some place that can take experts in all of those different or many different types of things, it just makes life easier, I think, for a person who has access to it. So it absolutely, I firmly believe in combining, because also your spirituality is another kind of tool that can help you deal with the stressors in your life. So people really have to be open to including things that are going to help and not thinking that one thing is going to fix all. It's like that old analogy. If you want to build a house, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you're not going to be able to build a house. It's going to take a lot of different tools, using them in the right order at the right time in order to get the outcome that you want.
Yeah, and I end up using like over 54 different alternative healing modalities on my journey. And everybody asks me, well, what was the best one? It's like, they all were helpful, and it's just, they were helpful at different times. And you got to understand, just because I use one tool and I get this big response from it, well, I don't have this amount of room to progress. Now it's going to be micro movements, right? Like in the Olympics, 1 millisecond or a microsecond, you can lose, right? So those seconds mean a big deal. So even whatever tool I've used, those ones that gave me that amount of response was just as helpful as this amount of response. So for when you come to Inception, you may get this, and you may need to go to elsewhere to really do that chiseling work. So I think for people who have different traumas too, because you have hard traumas and soft traumas. Like I believe if you were talking about like being abused, if that was something that was happening on like a continual basis, that's a soft trauma, right? So it takes more unraveling of that onion in different ways, from the physiological, neurological standpoint, but also from the psychological standpoint.
So speaking of that, for someone like me who you were saying, hey, you probably would be a perfect candidate, how many times would I need to come to Inception to try to make the progress that I would like to make?
Well, again, I believe that people come in, they all are pretty much kind of in a deficit. So I try to get them to do as many circuits. Like I had one young lady, she came up from the Bahamas, and she her boyfriend had died in a car crash, and she's on one of our testimonial videos, and she talks about how he died in a car crash, and she had been depressed for years since. So she went to the psychiatrist, went to the psychologist on the island, and she just really wasn't progressing. And so she saw us on Instagram and flew to Michigan. She stayed for 2 weeks. First of all, I thought that was overkill, but that was something she wanted to do. I want to stay for 2 weeks. I want to come in every day. Just tell me what to do. So I had her do basically what we call a circuit. It's 3 of our technologies in 90 minutes. She did that every day for 2 weeks. By the time she left, it was like you saw a whole different person. She went back home and she said, I thought that it helped me, that Inception helped me when I was there. She said, but I really realized how much it helped me when I got home because everybody could see it on me. What happened to you? Who are you now? Why? Because again, we didn't give you something that you don't have. Basically, we just took away all that energy you were using to keep your brain stuck in like threat mode. So for you, I would say like, if you're going to do anywhere from, let's say, 4 circuits, that's 4 days of 3 circuits a day. That's 12 sessions. That's going to bring you to a good place and a nice shift where it's not so overwhelming. Because again, anything that moves too fast, too soon, too sudden can be traumatic, right? And if you've been living your whole life in this pattern, and now that pattern is like really shifted, you're going to have a restabilization period where you're like, well, I had one guy who's a major radio host on the station here. He came in, he did literally 1 circuit. He was walking out the door. He said, man, I'm having anxiety right now about not having anxiety. Because he was looking for it.
It's funny that you say that because I've said to Star before in my healing journey that there are moments when I start to recognize the beauty in things or unlock something in me where like I'll have anxiety or even like cry, not because I'm upset, but just because it's like I see the world differently. So, it is, I think it holds true. I'm just saying that to what you're saying is that to feel that much better, I can only imagine for myself that it will be overwhelming because like you said, I've spent so much of my life in a certain regard. So to then even imagine that it could be shifted, like I could feel the energy now. Like, what would that look like for me and how overwhelming would that be in a positive way? So.
Yeah. And it's an adjustment period.
Yeah. And remember the healing process is not linear.
It's not right?
Static, and it's not smooth. So there's always going to be ups and downs in any healing process. And the trick is to learn to ride that wave like every other wave, in life, and to appreciate the ups and to remember that the downs are not the end of the world. And so.
Yeah, because if your heart rate is flatline, you consider dead.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So Dave, can you share with us some other things that even got you to this place and other suggestions that you would have for a person who's interested, who wants to come to Inception, who just wants to go, on this journey? Like, what were some of the things that got you to where you are being the owner of Inception and coming up with these ideas or things that you use as a tool throughout your own journey?
Yeah, again, it was just me continuing on my process of healing. It like you said, it was just definitely was up and down. So I'm still improving, still trying to get better. So as I'm doing that, I'm a lover of technology anyway, and because I was already in that field, I was finding everything come across my desk and thinking it can be helpful to me and can be helpful to my clients.
But what made you say like, okay, I need to find something? Like, was something going on in your life or?
Yeah, I was having anxiety, panic attacks.
Oh.
Yeah. So
what did those processes look like? Like, what were some of those things? What were some of the books you read? What were some of those other things that you did? And even with Inception, is it something that how like the woman came from the Bahamas and did 2 weeks? Is it something where she should come back the following year? Is it a one and done?
That's put it like this. In 13 years, I brain trained today. I have not stopped using my tools because we're all reacting to a past and a future environment. Not a present environment, Because if there's nothing threatening in front of you right now, there's no reaction to it. So we already always either projecting or going back or stuck, right? So with that said, you have to be able to, still understand that you're in an environment that's throwing you in that past or future, typically. So I continue using my tools to keep.
If you guys think about it, like Star, your meditation training, or like someone who's doing yoga, you don't do yoga for 12 sessions and then say, oh, I'm all better and I never have to do yoga again, right?
Right.
You keep getting better and better. You reach new levels. And just when you think that you've mastered everything there is to master, you learn that there's a new muscle that you haven't worked, and you learn that there's a new way that you can move your body and a new reaction or a new response. And so that's really the way that healing is. No matter, people say, there's people that have been in therapy for 30 years and you're like, aren't you fixed yet? And you're like, well, you think nothing ever happens to them? So some people like being in therapy, right? They just like having that as a safe place to heal and grow as life changes. Other people go to therapy for very discrete periods of time, for very discrete problems, and then they don't come back unless they feel like they've reached, needed an adjustment, if you will. So I think we could think about all these different types of treatments and all the different languages that we use to describe them, and they can be intermingled and interwoven to help you heal.
How do you train people's brains to, like as a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, one of the things that I struggle with students, and I've struggled myself with it until I went on a crazy journey. So I wouldn't recommend that for anyone, but you sit in a temple and you meditate with a monk, that helps you to learn the process is the goal. There is no end point. It's just the process. How do you train people or help people to so their brain focuses on the journey and not the end point? Because that seems to be, for me, the thing I've seen causing the most anxiousness and just uncomfortableness for people.
But that's a coping mechanism of our Western civilization. The goal is, once I get this house, once I get this car, once I have this money, when I get married, there's always this something outside of you. Always in the future, you're projecting that when I get here, now I'm gonna feel good. And so when I look at all types of coping mechanisms, drugs, whatever it be, it's just nothing but a way to try to regulate your nervous system. It's uppers and downers, and people are really attracted to one or the other. Whether that's that upper is, going to the casino and pulling a slot and the thrill of you possibly winning, or someone who's in a bad relationship who gets abused and stays there. It's still them trying to complete a cycle in their journey, right? So I think along the way, you can't train people. People have to, that's a part of their journey to understand that, and they may not ever understand that. I think right now too, with everything slowing down, most people are so far ahead and now they had to slow down. That's like that's too jarring, right? I went from go to do nothing. That's too big of a shift, right? Mm-hmm. But now I'm just like, I personally want to just relax into this and, enjoy this whole process and this journey, because I may not ever get this moment in time again in my life. So I think that's an individualized thing. They say, it has a statement that said, a philosopher has said, when a teacher is ready, or when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. Mm-hmm. And if you ever seen the Matrix, Morpheus could do nothing but give you a choice. That other person had to do the choosing, right? So even though I believe we are kind of trained that way by go. So no, stop, relax is what Inception is talking about. We're trying to get you to dial down so we can get back into a better ebb and flow of life. Mm-hmm. Even the seasons, like I said this last 2 days, it's interesting that we are part of human nature, but we think we're so absent from it. But we are so absent from it because we're disconnected from it. Because when a winter comes, why is it that we still think we're supposed to be peaking when nature is going down? So we get stuck. We want to do this all year round up. It's like, you should really naturally be going the way that the seasons are going. Now we're starting to go back up. Our high point is the summer. Fall will go back down. Well, your nervous system works in a very similar fashion.
But how do you counter that? And this is for everybody. Like, how do we counter that with this like hustle culture that we've created in the last 5-10 years, where everybody wants to be the billionaire or the, you know, whatever, and they want to do it in a minimal amount of time, and there's just go, and being busy is the goal, not being well. How do you counter that?
You know, I have been starting to talk to people about the difference in being happy and being joyful. So happy is that state that David is talking about, where you're chasing something. If I get this thing, I'm going to be happy. If I get that thing, I'm going to be happy. If I achieve this milestone, I'm going to be happy. But it's temporary because it's tied to a certain plateau that you've envisioned in your life. Whereas joy is really the ability to be at peace and to be happy regardless of what is going on all around you. And so many people have always focused on happiness, which is temporary, it's external, it requires something that you don't have. And joy is something that you can attain or you can have at any moment just by being where you are.
That's deep.
Yeah,
right there.
It's Sasha, right?
Yes.
So Sasha was asking me about like books. So it's a gentleman I follow by the name of Dr. Gabor Mate, and he's a Canadian physician, and he talks about the myth of normal, and also talks about the impact of capitalism. And capitalism is built into it. I mean, if you think about it, we are programmed to want to do all of these things, because even the word sale means, right, you better come get it now, because if you don't, then guess what? You're gonna miss out, right? So it's always this future projection of needing something, you know, something on TV to tell you that you're not good enough, you know. And I'm always, you know, I talk to my mom, I'll listen to her say something like, oh, I can't go here because I have, you know, I got to do this with my hair or something like that. And I'm just like, that's so sad, Mom. Like, that's so sad that, you know, that you have to do all these things just to feel presentable or whatever, you know. You can't just be yourself, you know. And that's so built into the culture. Specifically, I think it's from both sides, men and women. Men have it a certain way and women have it another certain way. But sometimes I think women have it harder because men, we don't really, I've never been around guys who are like mad about, you know, jealous about other guys. I know it's jealousy, but it's things with women like are very catty with each other. Like, why she got that on? Or why she look like that? And it's just like, wow, like criticizing every single thing that you guys do, you know. So what does that do for your brain? Like, you have to think that's constantly training you a certain way, training you that you need to go to the gym and do 1,000 squats a day. You need to, you know, have this type of hair. You need to do all these different things, you know. And it's just like, well, when do you ever get to rest and just be yourself? You know, and it's the same thing for the men. Our thing is, I gotta go and chase every woman and I gotta get all the money, right? And if I don't have any of that or look like I got any of that, then I'm nobody. And then right now, this moment again is showing you that everybody's kind of equal right now, because nobody, whether you got money or not, you in your house.
Money ain't gonna save you from the Rona.
Right?
Unless you living in Drake's house, because Lord, did y'all see that?
Girl, okay, look, I'm not a hoe, but okay.
David, we really appreciate you. This has been really insightful. What you guys think? What say you? What's your last words of the day? And before we even close out, is there anything else you would like to add or just finish out, David, or that you would like to tell people in regards to Inception, in regards to your journey, or just anything?
Yeah, I mean, I would like the people to know, just to understand that this is like, the term mental health is really used in a way that people shy away from it. But like I said earlier, like your mental health is your whole driving force behind your entire existence and your being. So to be able to really sharpen this tool and be able to use it in a more efficient and resourceful way, you're going to find more happiness in your life than just, going about it the other ways, because you're already trying to do that, whether you're going to drink this, smoke this, eat this, sex this, buy this. Do it in more healthy ways when you can give you an ability to stop using willpower and just use brain power and be more centered within yourself. You're going to find a lot of stuff that you thought you wanted, you don't even really care for it. So this is just a way, not just, again, something wrong with you. No, there's something right with you. That's why you want to come and keep going. You want to keep using the best tools that's out there. The rich white folks are already using the tools. If y'all don't know, we're the ones that's behind. Charlemagne told me, Dave, you're 20 years ahead. I said, bro, we 20 years behind. Like, I started using this stuff 13 years ago. And the stuff is not new. It's just new to a lot of people because it's never been presented to us in a certain way. So I really want our people definitely to come and take advantage of this stuff because, again, the rich and the wealthy are already one step ahead using these types of tools. So it's not about something being wrong with you, again. It's something being right with you.
Are you franchising this, or like if you have a mental health practice here in DC and I wanted to bring that to that practice, could I do that? Could I like have you bring this to my practice, or?
We are going to be franchising, but there's going to be certain standards that I can't really talk about right now. We'll have that set up soon. I mean, we were supposed to have a new location opening up in July. So right now I'm not sure what's going on, but just a bigger scope of what we're doing too, because behind the scenes we're working. I'm taking everything that I've learned in the last 13, now going on 14 years, and organizing that, systematizing that, and making that digestible and understandable for people, just like Steve Jobs did with the smartphone, right? He just basically systemized that thing and made it beautiful where it looks like, okay, I can use this. This is what needs to happen, not just with mental health, but mind-body health, and understanding how they both work, how they work together. There's no separation between the two, and that's something that needs to stop. But we'll be educators in that, not just building or retail. That's just an experiential center. The biggest goal is to be rebrand mental health, make it cool.
So you're going to bring Amerikan Therapy on that journey with you, right? Because, we get ready to do, the saleswoman here. We're doing this virtual, since we had to pause our HBCU mental health tour and we couldn't go to the rest of the stops for the year because school's out. We're trying to put together a little virtual something. So you're going to help us do that, right? So these for the young Black people.
Absolutely.
All right now, I got your word.
I love Star, man. She gonna make that ask, and it is. We need it though.
You can't be a millionaire if you don't ask for what you want.
Dr. C,
do you hear that, Drake?
Yeah. So what I would say is, I think it's the takeaway for people today is that your body is complex. And it's going to take a lot of different things to help you feel whole and well. And so don't rely exclusively on any one thing. Don't rely exclusively on your primary care doctor. Don't rely exclusively on your pastor. Don't rely exclusively on your therapist. It's going to take a combination of a wide variety of things. And at different times in your life, there may be different tools in the toolbox that are going to work better for you. So don't be afraid to be open, to try new things, to try new combinations of things. And if anybody is telling you this is the only thing that's going to work for you, run. Because they're wrong, right? So I would say just don't be afraid to take care of all the different parts of yourself in whatever way feels good in that moment in time.
Star, you got any last words?
I've loved this. Thank you, Dave, for doing this. We really, really appreciate it. I have 3 things today. I usually have 2.
I swear I was about to tell you, you better only do 2. I felt it in my spirit.
video. I'm gonna just go with it, right? So I'll be brief though. So I have three things, right? So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you. So I think the first one that struck me was the combination of modalities, and I thank Dave for explaining to us like how this works, and that this isn't the catch-all. This isn't a like silver bullet, and not being the salesman. So I like being more of the practitioner than the salesman. That helped me to be like, okay, so combination of modalities and finding that mix that works for you at the point in time you're at, wherever you are in your journey. And then Dr. Royster's joy versus happiness was such a profound and powerful like thing to get, viewpoint to keep in frame, if you will, because I know you always talk about reframe.
That's right.
So I will take that with me, especially throughout this COVID outbreak, you know, the whole concept of what is joy versus what is happy, and being on the journey to joy and staying on the journey to joy. And so the last third thing is something I always tell all of my classes, my yoga and my meditation classes, because I like the way you explain that like capitalism drives a lot of our behavior. Be in love with the process. It's something like, as a yogi, it's part of the yoga tradition of falling in love with the process of healing and falling in love with learning who you are every day and learning more about who you are. So I think those three things get me to like, this was very beneficial and are reminders for me to keep at the front of my mind. So.
That's great. I definitely concur with everything that everyone has said. I think for me, it's kind of like an explosion in my mind, because it is like I'm processing like just the journey of, wow, this is another thing that I can add that could be really, really helpful. And then even the trigger of, I had never heard of this. And as Star and Dr. T and myself have really been on this journey to help our community. And with what you said, Dave, as far as like, we are so behind in the way that we view things that can help us, in the way that we view mental health, and just all of the things, like even when you just say something as simple as acupuncture, like most Black people are like, what?
I got no needles in me.
Exactly.
That's the devil for a lot of us, and that's one of the things. Everything that's outside of the church, we've been programmed as of the devil. You know, especially acupuncture, anything Oriental. You know, you start talking about energy medicine and things of that nature. Like, it keeps you away from stuff that can be helpful for you.
Right. And so that's something where like I take my daughter, she's 7, and she goes to acupuncture with me. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I thank you for being a part of the show and just exposing our listeners, even ourselves, as to the variety of options that we have for this journey of healing that we all, you know, should take a look at going on. And I'm amazed and I'm excited. I'm looking forward when this Rona over. I will be on the next flight to Detroit. I got plenty of leave that I'm earning up. So believe that I'll be there for a week. But no, thank you so much. It's just been so insightful. It's really has been an insightful conversation, and this is great. And we're excited and believe me, when Star said that Amerikan Therapy will be going on that journey with you, we are very serious.
Well, thank all of you for seeing the value of what we do, you know, finding value in it. So I like helping people. That's my main thing in life. So I'm passionate about what I do. And if it was about money, I would have stopped 13 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Being in the field, it helps, you know. It's now you can see it where people may need us, but you know, it hasn't been easy. It's not like I'm just selling hamburgers where just, oh, this hamburger tastes good. I got to tell you about why you need your brain trained, why you got trauma, why, you know, it's a lot of education that goes on to this. But, you know, that's why I'm here on this earth to provide this as a gift. This is my, you know, part of my creation, you know, one of them. So I'm excited about that and excited about more of our people like being excited about it too, you know, because this is I am Inception and we are Inception. You know, it's not This is not a some white man's company. You know, this is for us. You know.
I like this tagline: American Therapy, sponsored by Inception.
Hey, listen, we are gonna pull up, and I'm pulling up for show, and I'm gonna bring some people with me. Like, y'all need to pull up on David McCullar and Inception. Everybody check it out. Thank you again, and we are out.